It is a period of civil war. That is what the beginning of the first Star Wars crawl says. And it is a period of civil war right now in the Star Wars fandom. This is one of the most polarizing movies possibly ever. This movie, let's talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi. This is going to be my spoiler review. I'm going to get into what I liked and what I did not like about this movie in explicit detail. Now, if you have not seen this movie, I'm going to highly advise you, highly advise you to absolutely watch this movie without hearing this spoiler. You have to go into this movie not knowing a thing because there's a lot of impactful stuff that is not going to hit you if you go into it knowing. And also, because I have so many thoughts in my head since I saw the movie, and the movie is 2.5 hours long, this video is not going to be short. I have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to be doing more videos covering this movie. Star Wars The Last Jedi, I think, and maybe I'm generalizing too much here, but I think when it comes to this movie, it depends on the kind of Star Wars fan that you are, how you grew up with the series, and how you feel about movies in general, and really your love of Star Wars and your perception on what you think Star Wars is. Because this movie did take a lot of risks. A lot of people were talking about how ballsy the movie was and how they did so many things that were unexpected and took a lot of freaking risks with the direction they took the characters in. And there's truth to that. There is truth to that, absolutely. But I feel like the movie, when you watch it, and especially if you watch it right after watching Force Awakens, you're literally seeing two completely different visions of Star Wars. Force Awakens was criticized because they said that it was too much like A New Hope. And there's truth to that. When they did this reboot of the franchise, they wanted to let the fans know this will not be like the prequels. We're going to give you the Star Wars that you are familiar with, that you love, for at least the first movie. And it was criticized for that. And I feel like the way that Last Jedi went, it's almost like they reacted to the fact that the movie was criticized. Sort of like what happened with Batman v Superman and Justice League, how the studio kind of said, crap, they don't like it, let's give them the opposite. And The Last Jedi is very much the opposite of The Force Awakens, but I feel like it's the opposite of The Force Awakens to the extreme, to the absolute extreme, to where there are parts in this film where I wonder if it's even Star Wars anymore. The entire narrative of what Star Wars is supposed to be or was has been completely flipped upside down. And a lot of people are really embracing this. A lot of Star Wars fans are absolutely loving the fact that they're flipping the entire original narrative and the entire original theme of this franchise upside down to create like a new sort of outlook on it. And that's fine if you think that. I respect your opinion. However, in my opinion, and in many others, because let me share a personal story with you. Last night when I left that movie theater, I thought I was the only one who did not like this movie. And apparently, after checking Rotten Tomatoes, going on Twitter, talking to other YouTubers, there's a lot of folks who did not like this movie. And for similar reasons that I have. And I'm going to give you what I liked and did not like in a moment. But what I wanted to say was I did not want to dislike this movie. I was looking forward to this movie for 2 years because I liked Force Awakens because it set the groundwork pretty well. And I really wanted to go into this movie and walk out like, okay, Rian Johnson's directing and writing it. He's a bold visionary director. He's an independent filmmaker, or at least he was. Like, I wanted to see this movie really be something that's more, but still kind of be Star Wars. But I was worried it was going to end up being too pretentious and too wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and too meta. And this movie, your love of this movie or your hate for it depends on how you view Star Wars and how you view meta narratives. What I mean by that is this, to kind of explain where I'm coming from here. If you understand that the original idea behind Star Wars, and I don't mean just the first film, I mean the original trilogy, was all about family. It was about overcoming your adversities. It was about discovering who you are and, you know, again, sort of like they said in the trailer, finding your place in the world. And really a lot of it was about family. It was the Skywalker saga. Star Wars was the saga of the Skywalkers. Whether or not you liked the prequels or you hated them, it is the arc of the Skywalkers. And with the sequel trilogy, they pretty much told us that, yes, 7, 8, and 9 are going to be about the Skywalkers, plural, which is, as of the beginning of this movie, Luke, Leia, and Kylo Ren. Ben Solo. That's the Skywalkers. Even though he's a Solo, he's still Leia's kid, right? Darth Vader's grandson. Now, that's not what this is about anymore. It's no longer about the family. It is now the idea that anybody can be a hero. Now, while I like the idea that anybody can be a hero and anybody can be force sensitive depending on how nature just chooses it, what I didn't like is that they kind of blew that off in this movie. Case in point, the final scene of this movie, which a lot of people, very polarizing, they show this little boy using the force to grab the broom that they introduced earlier in the film, looking up at the stars. That would have been a perfect ending to episode 9, saying, okay, the story will continue. There will always be Jedi and you know, dark side. The balance will always continue to fight. But I felt that having it done in this movie, the way it was shot, the way it looked, came off like such a cheesy freaking Disney. Like, I was waiting for Jiminy Cricket to start singing, you know, When You Wish Upon a Star, dude. It was so cheesy. And the issue that I had with this movie, the main issue besides the smaller stuff, like obviously everyone pretty much agrees that the Canto Bite stuff was way too long. That's been pretty much in agreement, even though it didn't bother me as much as it did other people. The problem I had with the movie is that it had this meta narrative throughout the entire film that Disney's pretty much saying, if you're a fan of Star Wars, fuck you. This is our version of Star Wars. This is our vision of it. We don't give a damn about the old trilogy, and we even don't give a damn about Force Awakens. Because there were things that were set up in Force Awakens. There were questions that were raised in that film. There were characters that were introduced that in this movie were either disposed of or were not answered at all. If this was like the dude Rian Johnson watched Force Awakens and said, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what everybody expects. And there's a good, you can do that and get away with it if you make it compelling. But I thought in this movie it was done so much that I felt like the entire purpose of this movie was to fuck around with the audience. Now, I am okay with watching movies that fuck around with the audience. Memento, for one. That's one that does that. You know, a lot of Nolan movies. I like that. But I thought this movie was just twist upon twist upon twist upon twist upon twist just to get you emotionally riled up. And at the end, you don't even get satisfied with what they could have done. Case in point, one of the more criticized scenes was Leia. They teased that Leia's going to die earlier in the film. They teased Kylo shooting her, maybe going to the good side. He doesn't do it. TIE fighter shoot her anyway. She gets blown off the cockpit, and then she somehow uses the Force to float herself back in. Now, seeing Leia use the Force was great. People have wanted to see this for 30 years, right? That's fine. That didn't even bother me. Was it cheesy? A little bit, but again, they almost like teased her dying just to screw with you. Then they showed you that to make you happy again. But here's the question. And if you've seen the movie, this is a spoiler review. If she can do that, why the hell was it Rey that had to move the rocks at the end of the movie? Why couldn't Leia just move it herself if she's that strong? We've never seen someone survive space like that. And again, it really didn't bother me, but it was also like, if you're going to have this ability, why not have, you know, a lesser ability later on? This entire movie literally felt like it was basically Disney making sure, and Rian Johnson reaffirming to you that this is now theirs and there's nothing you can do about it. And they made a rule to get rid of, whether it be killing or whether it be figuring out ways to write them out, getting rid of the past. If you remember in the promo material, Kylo Ren says, you know, forget the past, kill it if you have to. That's pretty much the theme of this movie. Everything that represents what Star Wars was, they have effectively tried to get rid of. Not just with them killing off Luke Skywalker or having him do that sacrifice, which, again, that would have worked out better in the next movie, but I'll talk about that here in a minute. But the fact that you had Kylo Ren killing Snoke. Now, Kylo Ren's, the way they did this and the way that Kylo actually killed Snoke by catching him off guard, I didn't hate this. I thought it was a little bit silly, though, that somebody like Snoke, who was so in tune with the Force and who knew the mistakes that Palpatine and that Vader made, because he talks about it in the Force Awakens novelization, the fact that he would drop his guard so bad that he allowed Kylo to kill him, you know, catch him off guard, which is the same mistake the Emperor made. To me, that was a little silly, but I liked the way it was done. And I liked that Kylo Ren established himself as pretty much the new lead villain of this franchise. I like that. I did like that very, very much. But I also recognize that it was another example of them saying, forget the past, let's focus on the future. Now, the idea of the story being about Rey and Kylo Ren, I think makes sense. And I do like that that's going to be where the story's going to be going in the future. I'm fine with that, trust me. As well as Finn and Poe and whatnot. But the movie hammered home so many times that this is not your traditional Star Wars, not just with the way the movie was shot, with the way it was directed, with the way that we saw technology in the film, with the things that Yoda did, the things that Luke even said himself, where he pretty much chastised the Jedi for being not too smart and being egotistical, which is true. I felt The Last Jedi would constantly remind you over and over and over again that this is different, it's not your daddy Star Wars, and we're going to do whatever the hell we want and not care. And that, to me, I felt bordered on disrespect. I thought that was disrespectful. Yes, Disney bought Star Wars for $4 billion. Yes, Force Awakens was a step in the right direction, I think. Make the story with more practical effects, bring it back to old school storytelling, swashbuckling adventures. That's what Star Wars should be. This was not just that meta narrative that was hammered home of this is our property now, forget about everything you knew, check out these new powers. Everything that they did in this movie was to hammer that point home. Everything. But also the idea that all the fanboys had, like, okay, what are the Snoke theories? Who are Rey's parents? Where has Luke been? The movie didn't at all in any way satisfy any of those theories, which I'm okay with. But I also saw it again as this meta narrative, and it just felt like it was being regurgitated over and over and over and over again every time, like every few scenes. And then you have the Canto Bight stuff, which everybody agrees, bit too long. I wasn't that bothered by it. They went to a planet that never before in the history of Star Wars have we had a planet that resembles planet Earth so much like Canto Bight. They had a police squadron, they had, a casino, they had all these different things that looked like planet Earth, and they had this kind of subtle sort of political, pro-liberal kind of thing going here where they kind of were sort of painting wealthy people in a bad light and sort of painting bureaucracies and, the rich as being shady and funding wars. Now, I like the idea that the rich fund wars because that totally goes down that whole like Illuminati conspiracy stuff where the rich fund wars on both sides and profit, to sell weapons and whatnot. Like that actually all makes sense. I like that, but I didn't want this movie to bring up actual real world political issues that are going on right now because, or at least in the past couple years, because this is escapist entertainment. Star Wars should have some politics, but this was done so subtly that I found it kind of annoying. So with every decision that Rian Johnson made in this movie, it literally was him telling the audience, screw you, you're not going to get what you want. They put out the Phasma book. Phasma's this super tough warrior, very, very strong. She goes in there and gets cucked by Finn. It's a twist. It's some unexpected that I thought made no sense that Finn, who's barely got any experience, who was trained by her, beats her in a fight, and she dies. People went into this movie, and the whole thing, it's almost like Rian Johnson watched all the Force Awakens reviews, and he heard people say, oh, well, Phasma was wasted in the Force Awakens, but in Episode 8, they're going to really use her. And that's not what happened. They jobbed her out. Supreme Leader Snoke, millions and millions of Snoke theories. Some of them were pretty clever, some of them were pretty stupid. At this point, the Snoke theories, no matter who he is, doesn't even matter anymore because he's dead. Because when Kylo Ren killed him the way he killed him, even though Snoke was very impressive early in the film, not just in Andy Serkis' performance, but the things that he did, he was able to levitate Rey with ease. He was able to shoot force lightning from the floor. Like, there was all kinds of cool stuff he was doing. He was super overconfident, which I like in a villain, even though he's really a coward. He was afraid of Skywalker, but he was overconfident. I like that, and he ends up getting killed halfway through the movie. Again, that would have worked better in Episode 9 versus in Episode 8. I didn't hate it, but I thought that the entire mystery behind Snoke, the fact they killed him off, is ruined. I no longer care about Supreme Leader Snoke. Was he an ancient Sith? Is he an ancient dark side entity? Is he the Prime Jedi? Because the Prime Jedi is something that was discussed in the visual dictionary and didn't even make the movie. Basically, the original Jedi balanced light and dark. And I'm over here waiting for like a full explanation of this in the film. Like, I'm waiting to see, okay, Luke's going to tell her like, the real history of the Jedi. And they barely even scraped the surface of it. He just said that the teachings of the Jedi were wrong because the Force does not belong to just one entity. It could belong to anybody, which again is the meta narrative. Guess what? Star Wars doesn't belong to you fanboys. It belongs to us. It belongs to the agenda that we want to push. Now, some people have said that this has an SJW agenda, that they want to get women and children. That's kind of the thing. And to be honest with you, even though I've denied that, because people have said that Force Awakens and Rogue One has really pushed strong female main characters, which again, I'm okay with that. But I feel like with this movie, they took it a little bit too far to where I can't even deny, if somebody were to say it's an SJW, it's a pro SJW movie, I can't even deny it because of the way they had Admiral Holdo and Poe. Poe Dameron never came off like that much of a rebel. He was a brave warrior in Force Awakens, but in this movie, he's disobeying orders, and the women, which is Princess Leia and Holdo, were the ones that really were smart and really knew what they were doing. And I liked Admiral Holdo's arc. I really liked that. I love what they did with the light speed, ramming the ship and breaking it apart. I really enjoyed that, and I liked what they did with there, but I felt like Poe was a little bit too reckless and just kind of came off like an idiot. Same thing with Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is reckless, but Rey, she's calm, cool, and collected. She's okay. Then you've got Snoke, who's out of his freaking mind. Then you've got, I thought the character of Kelly Marie Tran, which is Rose Tico, I thought was boring, and I thought her dialogue was bad. Was not a big fan of the character, even though I think she's very cute. Was not a fan of the character. They wrote her to speak in a very, that kind of BS. Like, they wrote her dialogue really poorly. And I didn't think that we were going to get prequel-level dialogue in these movies, but yeah, we have it. Where's Lawrence Kasdan to help write this fucking shit? Now, I want to talk about what I did like, okay? First of all, Adam Driver was a great Kylo Ren, great acting here. Mark Hamill was great as Luke Skywalker. We're going to bring that up. By the way, another example of that meta-narrative, when she hands him a lightsaber, he just throws it back. Like, that was funny, but it was, again, Disney saying, you know what? Fuck this, because all the fanboys want this, but we're going to fuck with them. Now, understand, I'm all for screwing around with fanboys. You can do that, but I felt like this movie came off condescending. Like, the movie felt like it didn't want to be Star Wars. That's where I think this movie flopped, is that it was a Star Wars movie that they wanted to make grander than Star Wars. We're going to go in a different direction, but the direction they went in my opinion, wasn't just a poor choice based on what Star Wars is, but also one that felt like they were almost, looking down on the fandom. Like, okay, we're not going to give you the movie you want. We're going to give you this, 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 and this, and you're going to like it because it's freaking Star Wars. That's how it felt to me. I honestly feel that way. But back to the good things. Again, seeing Yoda in the movie was great. A little bit weird the way it looked. I thought it was fine, though. Frank Oz reprising Yoda. Since when can Force Ghosts fire lightning from the heavens, bro? Is Yoda God now? That's something new. Wouldn't that have been a little bit useful in the past? You know what I'm saying? I thought that was weird. Like, I don't know if I love it or hate it. It was just weird to me. And let's talk about also the connection with Rey and Kylo. Now, this was confusing. So, Rey and Kylo, I don't know if it was before or after their fight. I presume it was after. Rey and Kylo have a mental force bond that Snoke is the one who did. And the reason he explained it was kind of not the best explanation. He was basically saying that he wanted to draw the light out of Kylo Ren and give it to Rey. Now, I thought, okay, well, if this happened earlier in the saga or earlier in the timeline, it would explain why she's so powerful, because she's taking some of Kylo's power. But no, that's not what it is. It was after their fight on Force Awakens. He gave them a mental link. And I'm just wondering, why would he even do that? What was the purpose of that? Wouldn't Snoke be in control of Kylo Ren, or at least understand what's going on? Why would he even doubt it? And if that's the case, shouldn't he have been a little bit more careful about allowing that lightsaber next to him? Why didn't he hold the lightsaber? Why couldn't he have somebody, one of the Praetorians, put it away? Like, it was one of those things where it was something Kylo did what Luke didn't do to the Emperor. Because remember, in Return of the Jedi, the Emperor's got Luke's lightsaber, and Luke could use the Force to cut him in half, but he doesn't do it. Kylo did do it, but in this instance, it was done sort of like to screw with the audience and make them think, okay, he's going to the light side now. But then I'm thinking in the back of my head, if he goes to the light side, who's the villain going to be? Are they going to bust out like the Hutts or something? Like, where are we going here? But then they fight off the Praetorian Guards. Now, this fight, Kylo and Rey against the Praetorian Guards was a great fight because it was the most violent we've ever seen a Star Wars lightsaber like fight. Like I've never, even more so than Revenge of the Sith, the body parts being chopped up, the disembowelment. This was one of the most violent fights in Star Wars, and it was so well choreographed and so much fun to watch. Definitely my favorite part of the movie. The crowd was popping for this. You know, I loved the creativity. How, you know, Rey throws a lightsaber and then Kylo turns it on and kills the dude. I thought that was amazing. And I thought that whole thing was great. But then I was thinking, wait a minute. This happened after Snoke died. Why did the Praetorian Guards attack if Snoke was already dead? Shouldn't they have wanted to work for Kylo? Wouldn't he now be the new Supreme Leader? That was weird. Now, back to that meta narrative I talked about. Another thing about this movie was when the movie's over, both the Resistance and the First Order are even more crippled than they were in the previous movie. In the previous movie, the First Order destroyed the Republic and Starkiller Base was destroyed. So both sides kind of suffered and the Resistance was left. Now, the opening fight with the bombers and whatnot, I thought that was good stuff. I really enjoyed that. It was old school Star Wars. I was digging that scene so very much. When, you know, Poe, you know, did something very brave and destroyed the Star Destroyer. That was good stuff. I really enjoyed that very, very much. Great open to the movie. And then, you know, Finn wakes up. Where's Rey? I was digging this. This is good stuff. I was really digging it. But the thing is that, back to that meta narrative, when the movie's over, there's literally like 4 members of the Resistance left and then Kylo and Hux. And that's it. Like the entire First Order fleet is pretty much destroyed. They destroyed Snoke's ship. It was ripped in half by Holdo. So where do you go with Episode 9? They went to Crate. Leia sent out a distress signal. Nobody answered. So where the hell is everybody at here? Where are the chess pieces being positioned for this final chapter of the trilogy? You see what I'm saying? Is the whole movie going to be like a recruitment and then finally the big fight at the end? Where is this story going to go now when so many weird things happen in this movie to kind of twist it around? Like, I personally, combined with the fact that I didn't like the way they wrote Luke Skywalker, which I'm going to get to here in a minute, combined with that and like the weird kind of destruction of everything. They wiped the slate clean and hit the reset button with this one, ladies and gentlemen. I am not looking forward to Episode 9 like I was before at all. I don't trust Disney. I don't like this narrative that they're putting out there. I don't like the fact that they jacked themselves off during this freaking movie. It was just the movie was very meta, and that's what I hate. I don't like meta movies. I've never liked them. Unless we're talking about a comedy, I do not like this type of shit in movies, especially in Star Wars. And again, if you're out there and you like this, I respect your opinion, because a lot of people love this movie. They thought it was very brave, and the fact that it was very brave and different was a winning thing. And I like brave and different, but I thought this was so brave and different that I kind of forgot what it was. And that was my big thing. Let's talk about Luke Skywalker. So, the character of Luke Skywalker was completely and utterly ripped in half in this freaking movie. I don't know what Rian Johnson was thinking. I know that Mark Hamill was very critical of this direction. He said several times, oh, I wouldn't do this if I were them. This is not Luke. And he's right. He was absolutely right. This is not Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker has always been the glimmer of hope. What is Episode 4 called? A New Hope. That wasn't the original name, but it was just called Star Wars. But you get what I'm saying. It's A New Hope. It's the story of Luke Skywalker saving the galaxy. That's the story. That's the narrative. He redeemed his own father, overcoming that obstacle, and saved the galaxy by shifting the Force back to the light, with the Emperor and Vader being dead. That's the story of Luke Skywalker. He is the redeemer. He redeems darkness. And yet in this movie, his freaking nephew, the son of his sister, freaking has a bad dream and he wants to kill him in his sleep? Like, seriously? And I do like how they had the 3 different perspectives. Like, Kylo saw it like, you should never want to betray me. And Luke saw it as what he did was actually like what really pushed him to the dark side. Like, I totally get that perspective and I did enjoy that. But Luke Skywalker would never give up on somebody like that. And also in the movie, when Rey goes to see him, she's like, listen, Han's dead. And he found that out by the Falcon not being with Han. Han's dead. Freaking your sister's about to die. 5 planets in the Hazian system were blown up and Luke just doesn't care. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. That's not Luke Skywalker, bro. Especially not Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker, who was so determined. And yet he refused to freaking get in the fight to the point where at the end of the movie, I thought he was going to pull that TIE fighter. I thought he was going to pull that X-Wing out of the water, fly to freaking Crate, and save his sister. And if he was going to die, he was going to go out and go die there in a blaze of glory, taking down like 10 freaking AT-ATs. But no, he freaking astral projected there with his old look, gave Leia the little medallion or whatever, the necklace, the thing. That was cool. That was a good moment. Winked at 3PO, and then winds up going out there and having, they tease this lightsaber fight that they don't give you. They don't even give you the damn lightsaber fight with Kylo and Luke. You know, the AT-ATs or AT-4Gs, whatever the fuck. I don't care. I'm mad. They're blasting him, and Luke is just, he eats it. He does the dust your shoulder off. That was cool. I was like, okay, we're going to see Luke do some real shit right now. And it was just an illusion to trick Kylo. Okay, that was a clever thing. And it was built up earlier in the movie with the whole ability with the Force to be able to move to different parts of the galaxy and whatnot, which I think is very powerful. But I also thought, damn, like, you couldn't even go there yourself and do something? He's Luke Skywalker. I mean, come on. Like, he was such a... They ruined that guy's character. They literally ruined Luke Skywalker's character. Luke Skywalker is the redeemer, the glimmer of hope. And the way he just said, okay, I'm not the last Jedi. It's Rey now. He didn't say that, but that's what he was implying. And I'm going to bow out. So, again, it's Disney saying, you know what? You love these characters growing up. Forget about them. Now you gotta love the new ones. And I do love the new ones. I like Finn. I like Poe. I like Rey. I like Kylo Ren. I do like these new characters. But the kind of Star Wars fan that I am, I don't want to watch this movie or these movies and be constantly reminded that, hey, buddy, you're a fan of the old stuff. Forget that. This is our cool new stuff. Check out our really strong women and our, you know, our pro-vegan, anti-meat eating bullshit. You can't, you know, they had that whole thing where the animals were getting abused. That was unnecessary to me, in my opinion. You know, the porgs, like, he didn't want to eat the porg meat. Like, what was going on here with this shit, man? This isn't Star Wars. So anyways, I've talked for 30 minutes. I don't really hate this movie as much as you think I do, but it's without a doubt the most disappointing Star Wars movie. They had all these good elements in there. They set up a great first chapter in Force Awakens, in my opinion. They didn't even answer they answered who Rey's parents were, but it was all done in dialogue with Kylo, and it was a throwaway line. Again, we're gonna screw with the fanboys, and they never even told us anything about who Snoke is. I wasn't expecting an entire backstory on Snoke, but they didn't even tell us who he is. He's just some dude who took over the military. Like, do I even care about reading? Like, I used to care about reading sort of like how Snoke took over and how the Imperial fleet wound up in his hands. Now I just don't give a damn anymore because he's dead anyways. Like, so what's the point of me caring about how he did it if he's not even that great of a manipulator, not even that strong? So overall, this movie was a huge letdown. I was more so of a letdown than the prequels. I'm not saying it's worse than the prequels because the prequels were pretty damn bad. But as far as like expectations that pretty much the entire fandom had based on the promotion, based on the buildup of the first act, based on the fact that Rian Johnson did nothing to follow up on what JJ wrote, and in fact just told you, okay, if you got invested in all these little mysteries from episode 7, fuck you, none of that shit matters. And to me, there was better ways of them doing that. There was better ways of them executing that. There was better ways of them giving you enough twists and shifting the story in a certain direction to where you still felt like, okay, they're going to satisfy me but give me something intriguing. And I thought that this movie did not do that. I'll be doing a lot more videos on this movie very soon, getting different opinions and whatnot about certain things about the movie, and maybe it'll, you know, when I see it again, maybe it'll grow on me. But I was not a fan of this movie. I thought this movie ruined my love, or not my love, let me take that back. It ruined my anticipation for episode 9. I just don't care anymore. I don't care about reading these stupid novels because I now see what Disney actually is. Disney's just trying to take your fucking money. And they're going to make these stupid Snoke novels and all this dumb shit that has no bearing on the movie, because all that shit that was built up in the past few novels and Aftermath and all that, none of that shit had anything to do with this fucking movie. None of it. None. Nothing. So if you're a hardcore fan, you're investing in this, you're wasting your fucking time.